My favorite Mac software just got a major upgrade. I use Ecamm Live almost every single day. I use it to add graphics to my Zoom calls and run my workshops. I use it to record videos and tutorials, and I use it to live stream, so it gets a lot of mileage around here. Now, with the new version 4.0, there are so many incredible new features and updates. I actually can't cover them all. I wouldn't want to, that would be way too long. But I do want to cover some really important features that I think you will want to know about. So today we are going to cover the fact that there's a new, I'm going to call it a mode switcher. I don't actually know if that's what it's called. You can now multi-stream up to 10 different destinations. There is an increased guest limit. You can now have isolated recordings. All your different cameras can be recorded separately, which is amazing if you are editing, running a podcast, or repurposing your content. There's also a new interactive web widget that I'm going to show you. And there is a new and improved camera switcher. It's just such a better experience, and I'm going to show you how it works. Now, if you've never met me before, my name is Kat, and I help people to stand out in virtual meetings and presentations. And Ecamm Live is my not-so-secret weapon. Now, this is one option. There are other options out there, but I just love the interface, and I love this product. So let's dive into the new feature changes. One of the first things that you might notice when you log into the new version of Ecamm is that there's no longer an option down at the bottom for recording versus streaming. So instead, it's up here, and you can see this menu that has stream, record, or virtual camera. So you can toggle these on and off depending on how you plan to use Ecamm at the time. If I were to say only want to use the virtual camera, I could turn off stream and record, meaning I won't accidentally stream or record my Ecamm. I will just use it to go into Zoom or Teams, etc. If I turn on record, you will now see the option to press record and actually record a video intentionally. And if I turn on stream, you will now see the controls for streaming. You will see the next scheduled stream if you have one scheduled. You will see more details, a menu about upcoming streams, or you can create a new one and it will keep some of the presets from your last stream and you can simply start from there. So those are the different mode switchers. I really like the simplicity of this, but just know that it's no longer in the corner unless you actually turn this on, and you can toggle these on and off. Multi-streaming has been on many people's wish list with using Ecamm. Previously, you would connect to another service and it would help you go to multiple destinations, but now it is built in. So let's say that we have an upcoming stream. I've got this demo that I put together, and I can see right now I've already connected 3 different destinations. If we click this little pencil, I can edit. And I can say, well, maybe I actually also want to go to my LinkedIn profile, or maybe I don't want to go to my Facebook business page. I can quickly add and remove destinations. If you don't see one on the list, you can click Add New Destination. This will pull up your option to connect with other platforms. Something that's important to note is that Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Amazon Live will actually show you how many viewers are watching, and you'll be able to see the comments. The other ones like Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram Live, they will allow you to stream to those destinations, but you will not see the viewer count and you will not see the comments in Ecamm Live, though you can see them in the actual platforms. But that's an important thing to understand when you are running a stream. When you actually set up the stream, you can change the name here if I wanted to change it, changing the description. I can adjust visibility for YouTube. Right now, this is an unlisted demo. And there is a little toggle that will allow you to have additional platform options, like LinkedIn has automatic captions as an option, and I can change the latency on YouTube. The other thing you will notice is that there is an internet speed check. Right now it is saying in order to go to these 3 destinations, you need 17.8. And I have a green check mark, meaning yes, I have sufficient upload bandwidth. If I add a new destination, you will see that go up. I'm still okay. So how do we check this? Well, if you actually open your preferences and we go to stream, you will see that there is this internet speed test. I can actually change this and say, how much do I need for 7? Oh, too much. I need to reduce stream settings, reduce the number of destinations. So I can either change the frame rate or the quality, or I can say, I'm going to go to fewer destinations. You can also run a test again for your speed test. So if you go directly into preferences and stream, that is where you can start to adjust. If I were to say, well, let's go lower quality to 7 destinations, then yes, I can do that. So this is where you can alter and adjust what it is you are trying to do. And this is a nice place to be able to check how many destinations can I go to given my upload speeds. When you are live, which I am obviously not right now, you will see in the top right corner the controls for your live streams. You will be able to toggle down and see all of the different streams that you are actively going to, and it allows you to turn that off. So if you want to end one of the streams but not interrupt the others, then that's definitely possible. If you are connected to YouTube, Twitch, Amazon Live, or Facebook, you will also see the number of viewers you have at each destination, as well as some interactivity like thumbs up, etc. If you have Ecamm's Pro plan, then you already have the ability to interview. If I click on these 2 heads here, it brings up my interview panel, which I can toggle on or off, and you can customize details, so you can go into your interview settings, set that all up. I'm not going to go into that because there are other videos where you can see that, but previously this was limited to 4. However, if you have the Pro plan and you have the M1 or M2 Mac, you can now have up to 10 guests. You do need the newer version in order to handle the amount of bandwidth in order to have this many guests, but it is now an option. I'm just going to say, be careful. More is not always better. Just because you can have more guests, it is more to organize, to coordinate, to set up, but it is now a feature, and that's pretty exciting if you have some activities where you need to bring in more guests than you previously were able to. I am really excited about the isolated recordings feature. Now, this does require a Pro plan, and you do need a newer computer, one of the M1 or M2 Macs. But this is a pretty amazing option if you are doing editing, or you want to be able to repurpose content, or if you have interviews and guests. You can pull in isolated tracks from all your different cameras and guests. If we open our preferences and go to the recording tab, you will now see an option to record isolated video tracks. For example, in the camera switcher, which we will see shortly, I can say which cameras I want to record and which audio to record with them. If you have interview guests, you can select that as well. And you have the option to either record isolated audio tracks or not. This is up to you depending on your needs. You can also choose the file format. And while this is not related to the isolated recordings, you will notice that there is now an option to have a countdown if you are simply recording locally to your computer. So these isolated video tracks you can turn on, and you can actually turn these off in the middle of a stream or a recording. If you decide you no longer want to record one of the feeds, you can come in here and you can actually just uncheck the one you want. It will not interrupt your recording or your stream, but it will stop recording that. This is helpful if you are running out of bandwidth or you want to be conservative with how much you are saving when you are doing these recordings. However, this is a really excellent feature for repurposing or for adjusting or editing the videos after you've already recorded them. Ecamm has always allowed you to share an application or share your screen, but now there is an interactive web widget. So if I actually go to my next scene, you can actually see a demo. So I've got my live camera that I'm talking into right now, and I have a web widget. And this is an interactive web widget, and I'll show you how to actually set one up. But as I hover over the placed website that I put here, and I can customize, I can drag the size, you will see there's a little toggle. This is what turns it to interactive or not, and it has some controls here. If I say I want to interact with this, I can now actually scroll and interact with this website. I can also type into this page. So it's pulling the website, and I can actually start to fill out this form if I want to. Now there is a restriction at the time of recording this. You cannot copy and paste, but you can type into the page. If you want to turn this off because you don't want to do something accidentally, you can do that. And this widget is pretty easy to set up. So let's actually just close this and set up a new one. So over here in my overlays window, I'm going to click on this little globe and say new widget, and it will say, what's the display name? So in this case, I want to have my cat website, and I already have this pasted in here. You can adjust your width and your height and your frame rate. There are a few other options, and I'm going to add this widget overlay, and then you can come here and just simply set up your scene, place it the way that you want, and sort of structure it. So maybe I want it to be about midway. Now I've got it set up, and this is just all you have to do is decide, do you want to interact with it or not? Now I'm pretty sure if you lock this, so if we lock this in place and I say interact, I can't now scroll because it says the overlay is locked. So that is one thing that I think you should know about at the moment as I'm recording this, is that when it's locked, I can't really scroll. I can't interact with the page. So I have to unlock and I can scroll, and I just have to be careful because you can accidentally move this, or maybe if you have a trackpad, you could accidentally make the actual size of this bigger or smaller when you don't mean to. So I would say be careful, set it up the way you want. But it is a really cool feature for not showing the URL and being able to put a website in a scene to interact with it. And I mean, it cuts out all the other stuff. At the moment, you also can't do a border. So if you really want a border, then I would say go with your usual application overlay. So a screen share overlay, that's probably the way to go. But this is the new website widget. Let's talk about the new camera switcher. It is such a better experience. Previously, when you were on the screen and you hovered, you would see this, which you could move it around. I found it kind of clunky. Right now, I have an example where I have my primary camera set up. I have an overhead or desk camera. I also have a green screen set up with my iPad, and I've added a guest. The more you add, the longer this gets, and it's frankly kind of cumbersome. And I found when you're setting up scenes, I hated moving this all around. So first, the good news is if you open your preferences, you can say uncheck show camera switcher in main window. This is bye-bye, it's gone. That is beautiful. Now, if we click on this little grid here, it pulls up the camera switcher, and this is actually customizable. So if I say, you know what, I want this to be long and put this down here. Maybe this fits better for my screen, which I have blown up the resolution so it's easier to show demos. And I could say I want them this way. I can also adjust the size. So if I want them to get bigger, I can make them really big. But the other nice thing about this new camera switcher is that you can actually pop out sources. So if I wanted to have a better look at this desk, I can actually click on the three little dots and say, show in separate window. Now I can adjust this size and say, okay, what do I actually want? And I can place this somewhere on the screen so that I know when it's time to switch to this camera, that I can see what it looks like a little bit bigger. Also, if you have interview guests, you can do this by having your different interview guests in multiple windows. Maybe I wanted to have this one in a separate window. I can actually start to customize. This would be better on a second screen, but you can start to customize your different cameras so that when it's time to switch, you actually know exactly what you're seeing. So that is something that is really helpful. But there is also another option that you might have noticed. If I click here again, you will also see the option to send it to another monitor. So if you do have, say, a guest, or you really want to see the details before you switch to a camera, you can also send it to another monitor, which is fantastic. You can also say, I don't want to see this in the switcher. Maybe I am not using something that is usually set up. I can just remove that. Like the built-in camera is something that I have removed from this switcher. If you have guests, you can add them here. This is really great for being able to prepare a guest. And let's say I am setting up a scene. So I'm going to make this scene blank. And so I have a little background here. I could actually drag a camera up onto the scene. I can size this the way I want and make those adjustments. And then I can actually drag my guest and prepare for an interview. So now I have my camera, I've got my guest camera. You can keep doing this over and over and set up your scenes. I won't get into all of the setups, but this is what you can do in advance, which is extremely helpful if you are preparing to interview or set up a panel. The other thing you can do, if we go back, so I'm going to cancel this and we're just going to switch back to my camera. Let's say I do have the green screen, which I happen to have beside me. I've got it connected and I've got just a little green screen background, meaning I can use this as an overlay. If I want to drag this over, I can have this take up my whole screen and then apply the green screen effect and say I want it to be transparent. So now I have this overlay. You can't see it because I'm using the green screen, but I can take my pencil and I can start writing on this. Very, very bad, poor quality writing, but you see the point. And if I want to hide this, I can just X this out, or I can drag this back on. Oh, I just changed to the camera itself. So now it's on the background, which actually might be a little bit better for this case. So clicking on the camera will switch to the camera, but dragging it will drag that on top of the camera that you have already chosen. And this is really hideous writing, so I'm going to X that out. But you get the idea. There are a lot of ways that you can quickly add cameras or shots onto your existing scene. Now you might also look here and say, what is this? So this is the placeholder camera option. So you can either see all of your sources and you can also add new ones. So let's move this up. If I say plus, I can add another camera, add a placeholder camera. And so this brings us over to AB. So maybe I want to add, oh, they're going down here. This is what's happening. Guest 2, I can toggle and see all the different options. So here I can say my cam link, which is my main camera. I've got my iPhone, which is my desk camera. I have the game capture, which is my green screen. And you can pick and prepare all of your guests in advance, but you can set up these placeholders. So I could have guest 1, guest 2, my other camera. And if you think, Kat, I don't have multiple cameras. Well, you see here, I actually have camera B is zoomed out. It's showing way more than I would want to show, but you can actually set up the one camera with different effects, different zoom. So if I click on this camera, or I don't even have to change. I can stay on my camera and I can click on this. This little guy here is going to open the camera effects. So I have the camera effects panel open to the right. It is now on camera B and I can make edits. So right now there's no zoom. So if I wanted to have maybe a close-up for dramatic effects, I can pull this in and kind of have maybe a tighter shot than I normally would. And then if I want to switch, let's drag this down a little bit. I can switch between these cameras and have a more dramatic effect. The other thing you can do, if we click on this and say, okay, I want to keep adjusting camera B, I can actually do things like make camera B black and white. So then it's even more dramatic when I change between scenes. You also have the option for a sepia tone. So we're going to click on this again. I could change this to sepia. I can also blur. So let's actually go. So here's an example, zoomed in sepia tone, blur effect, which this might be nice if you had something you kind of want in the background and maybe you want to show something, or even do the green screen, you might want to blur some of the background, but it blurs the whole camera. And so you can click blur and you can start to kind of turn that up. So I could maybe overlay my existing camera or maybe another shot, and I could have something over top of this, and I would probably take off the sepia, but you can blur and you can choose how much you want to blur this. So there are some different effects that you can do just to that camera. So the point of this is that it allows you to actually create additional cameras, even if you only have one camera. Or maybe I wanted to have, so I've got let's add a placeholder, and we are going to add, and let's drag this up again. We are going to switch this to my desk computer or desk shot. So I can have this one, and then let's change this one also to the desk shot. So this one. So maybe I want this one to be zoomed in. So here I can kind of zoom in. If there's a specific thing on my desk, if I wanted to focus on the Stream Decks, I can do that. I can maybe zoom in a little bit further. So now I have the option of setting up 2 different desk shots so that I can jump between the ones that I want. So this is how you can optimize this switcher. So not only is it just bigger and customizable, you can say, okay, what's the shape I want my camera switcher to be in? Do I want it actually to be tall like this? It's just so much more flexible, and being able to drag and drop things onto the screen. So if I wanted to have maybe my camera, but then have a little shot in here, and we can just zoom this out. I'm trying to pinch here. So I can pinch, and then I can have this maybe in the corner. So if I'm doing a demonstration where I want to show something with the keys while I am actually talking or doing a different demonstration, then I could do that by simply adding. And then if I want, I can just kind of hide that and make that disappear. So this is the new updated camera switcher. You can add all of those placeholders. You can start to optimize and have different cameras at different angles ready to go and easy to select between them depending on which effect you want. So what do you think? What is your favorite new feature of Ecamm, and how are you going to use this program to stand out in virtual meetings and presentations?